I'm sitting in for my husband, Larry Schulner, who was president from 1995 to 1997. He's not here today because he had passed away July the 11th. But since I was so much a part of his presidency, I've been asked to be able to, review what happened during his administration. Actually, I probably helped put him into the presidency because I used to work with the sisterhood and always worked on the Onigs and went to Temple on Friday nights and dragged Larry with me. And he just got excited about Temple at that time. A position opened up on the board one time for a secretary and it wasn't filled, and so Larry stepped up to the plate and said that he would be the secretary. And after that, actually, Bob Murray was supposed to become the president, and Bob had a financial commitment elsewhere and wasn't able to become president. The only person who was on the board who was really eligible to be president was Larry. So he wasn't really on the board very long before he assumed the presidency. After that time, we were at Shabbat services almost every Friday night. I think Rabbi Greenbaum said that we probably have the longest tenure of anyone who had attend services. Even after he was long after presidency, we were still always at Temple. The rabbi that he was under was Rabbi Alan Greenbaum. They used to have weekly meetings, 7 o'clock breakfast at Oak Tree Deli. And I think that happened weekly or monthly, I'm not sure, but that's what happened, and that's how they discussed what was happening during that time. Some of the big issues that developed were, of course, to complete the sanctuary. It had already been started, and it just had to be completed. The ground was breaking, the framing was up, and then it was, how are we going to finish the rest of this? Money, of course, was always an issue, and probably every president will tell you that money was always an issue. There was another issue that had to do with a preschool director. Some people weren't happy with the preschool director, so that was really a big issue that had to be resolved. I just remember, because I was sisterhood president before Larry was Temple president, that I used to have phone calls day and night about problems, and when Larry became president, he thought he'd have those same phone calls. He didn't. And he kind of missed those, but there really weren't a lot of big issues to have telephone calls for. So that happened during that time. One of the things that he really had hoped to do and did accomplish was to hire a paid administrator. We didn't have anyone. We just had an office staff, a secretary. We needed an administrator. And at that time, during his tenure, we were able to hire a part-time administrator, which now, of course, we have a full-time administrator. Another thing he wanted to do was to have a second term after his first term. Interestingly, there had already been a president previously who had a second term, and a lot of people just said, no, this temple should not have a president for a second term. So there actually was a forced election, believe it or not. And Larry didn't campaign very well. He was sure that people would elect him president a second time, but that didn't happen. And actually it was probably the best thing that happened, because then he went on to do a lot of other things. I think one of his fondest memories was starting the summer camp at Temple. Because he was involved in the Federation and worked on the Planning and Allocations Committee, we were able to get funds allocated to start our first summer camp, which is still going very strong. I think one of the things another thing was he wanted to hire an assistant rabbi. We were growing and needed another rabbi, and so we were fortunate to be able to bring on Rabbi DeBow at that time. Let's see what else. During Larry's tenure as president, I think what he really wanted to establish was bringing the board to a consensus. There was really a vote on something. It was mainly, we all agreed. There was a consensus. I did work with him. I didn't have really a position, but I worked with him and went to all of the board meetings, and actually we established notebooks for all of the different positions, so they could have a notebook or have something to know about the board. At that time, he also wanted the temple to become involved in the community, which we did. He encouraged new people to come onto the board. He talked to them. A lot of the people he encouraged to get onto the board have actually gone on to become president of the temple. During his tenure, just before, again, we were not in the union. We hadn't paid our mum dues. We couldn't go to the convention. That was in 1993, just before his convention. But by the time his term was over, we were back in the good graces of the union, and we were able to go to convention. That's just probably in a nutshell what.
Would Larry have any advice for us today?
Advice for us today. He didn't want to see the building become encumbered. There were loans on top of loans, and he didn't like money wasted, so that was kind of a problem. Any other advice? I think he was really happy with the way the board was moving, and so I think he was pleased with where we got to. You're welcome.
Stay right there. Don't get up. Don't get up.
Okay, I've just thought of one more thing. During Larry's term, we had actually established this group called the President's Circle, and where people gave $500 above their dues. Later on, it became the Pillar Group, where it became $1,000. But this was the beginning of getting more contributions to be able to help our temple. I think our other family goal was, we knew that when the sanctuary was being built, that on the outside we were going to have plaques on the outside. And those plaques, you had to give quite a substantial amount of money. And our goal was to be able to have our name on one of those plaques. And we do have our family name on one of those plaques. So we're really proud of that.